Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be teaching you the playingcards.io version of the solitaire board game, Scrappet Kaiser Princess. It's Mindy's birthday and she's finally allowed to play the hit trading card game, Scrappet Kaiser. However, she wants to become the champion, and the annual tournament begins next week. As Mindy, you must use her close circle of friends to build a card collection that will hopefully take down the champion and crown her as the Scrappet Kaiser Princess. To load up the game, you will need to go to playingcards.io and create a room by clicking any of these different options. Once you've entered the room, click the toolbox on the left to go into edit mode. In the tab that pops up, click Room Options and Import from File. From there you can import the pcio file that you've downloaded. Once it finishes loading, make sure you turn off edit mode by clicking the toolbox again. And you're ready to begin setting up the game. Before I go any further, let's go over how the interface of this website works. To flip a card, simply click it. To move a single card or token, click and drag it. Note that dragging a card into a designated space will slide it into that space. If there are multiple objects in the stack, there will be a number in the corner. You can move an entire stack by clicking and dragging this number. If you click this number, it'll open up a menu with more options. So from here, I could flip this stack of cards, or I could shuffle this stack of cards. I could even cut this deck into two halves, using this slider to adjust the amount of cards that is in each half. Some cards on the screen have important text effects that may appear too small to read. If you hover your cursor over those cards, a larger image of that card will appear. To adjust the various trackers, you can simply click the plus or minus buttons on the right and left to increase or decrease the number, or you can just click the number itself to change the number manually. Now let's begin setting up the game. When you first load up the game, certain parts of it should already be set up. For example, each of the kids' photos should already be placed in slots in the binder area on the board, with Mindy's photo being set a little off to the side. Each of the kid tokens should already be in the home location, and the final event card should already be in the events area. Also, your ego tracker should already be set to 10, and you should have $5 in your buck bank. To continue setting up, shuffle the event cards in the top right corner in the setup area, and cut the deck. Take the half with 6 cards and drag them onto the final event card, creating a stack of 7 cards. The remaining 7 event cards will not be used and will remain in the setup area for the rest of the game. Then you'll shuffle these starter cards in the setup area, draw one, and place it into any open slot in your binder, face up. The remaining starter cards will also not be used this game. Next, we will shuffle and draw 4 cards from this deck in the store area, placing the drawn cards into open slots in the playground. Face up. The remaining booster cards in the store area will be referred to as the store deck. Finally, shuffle the deck of special cards in the alley. And now, you're ready to begin. Scrappet Kaiser Princess takes place over 7 rounds, during which you will send your friends on different tasks to earn money and cards to build up your final score. However, as your collection grows, so will your ego, and if you're not careful, you could lose your friends along the way. Each round of the game has 3 phases: the night before, the day of, and the afternoon meeting. A simple reference to each of these phases can be found in this corner of the board, but let me explain in a little more detail how it works. The night before is the planning phase, in which you will decide what you and your friends will do the following day. Simply move a kid token to the specific location you want them to go, giving them any resources they need to complete their actions. A kid going to the lemonade stand will hopefully gain $1. A kid going to the store must be given bucks to buy cards with each card costing $3. So if I wanted Spiff here to buy 2 cards, I would need to give him $6 to use at the store. A kid going to the playground will be able to trade cards with other children on the playground. As with the store, you must give them the appropriate resources to buy a single card. For example, if I wanted Penny to gain the 7th strength card at the playground, I must send her there with cards with at least a total strength of 7. So I could send her with these cards, since 3 plus 3 plus 2 equals 8, which is greater than 7. So I could get one of these 7 strength cards. Or, if I didn't have enough cards, or didn't want to trade in my cards and still wanted that 6, say I didn't want to give up this strength 3, I could use bucks instead. So I have $2 plus the 5 strength of these cards, that still makes 7, and I can still get one of these 7 strength cards. And finally, a kid going to the alley will usually get nothing. However, there is this event card, Dropped Wallet, that will give you $10 for each kid in the alley. But other than that, a kid will do nothing here. You cannot plan for any of your friends to remain home, but there are certain situations in which a kid will remain there, which I will explain in the future. In addition, each kid has a special ability, which is explained on the back of their photos in your binder. Penny's ability is Bake Sale. At the lemonade stand, she brings her own homemade cupcakes and cookies, and instead of gaining $1, she gains 4. Link's older brother works at the store, so he gets a family discount. Instead of purchasing cards for $3, he can purchase them for $2 instead. And Spiff is the cool kid. As such, it is very easy for him to trade at the playground. He will always get 5 strength added to his card total. So if I wanted to collect one of these 7s, I could simply send him with $2 or this 2 strength card. Or, if I wanted him to get this 4, I wouldn't need to give him anything. Unlike the previous 3 kids, Jessa and Mindy's abilities can be used at more than one location. Jessa is a sneaky little thief, so her abilities involve gaining a few more extra resources at various locations. However, because she is Mindy's best friend, these abilities won't activate unless she is at the same location as Mindy. So, at the lemonade stand, instead of gaining $1, she will gain $2. At the store, she will gain 2 cards from the top of the store deck. And at the playground, she'll be able to gain 1 card for free. Don't forget that Mindy has to be with Jessa in order for these abilities to activate. As for Mindy, you may use her Blazing Spirit ability to spend ego to perform extra actions during the day of phase. At the lemonade stand, you may spend 3 ego to gain $1. At the store, you may spend 2 ego to peek at the top 2 cards of the deck. and then return them. At the playground, you may spend 2 ego to boost your card strength total by 1. Additionally, only Mindy is able to duel Dark Shippy Doos at the alley. She will need to bring a single card from the binder to duel with. I'll explain more about Mindy's abilities and duels later. Keep in mind that all of these various actions will not happen in this planning phase, and whether a kid will complete their action depends on the event of the day. Once you're happy with where each kid will go and have given them any resources they need, you're ready to move on to the next phase, the day of. To start off this phase, you'll need to check your phone for any notifications. Flip over the top card of the event deck and set it to the side here. The notification box up top will explain what happens this day, possibly affecting any plans you've made the night before. Some of these effects will trigger immediately. Some will affect certain locations, and some will affect certain kids. I won't go over each event in this video, but you can find a full list of each card along with any clarifications in the rulebook. After resolving any immediate event effects, the kids will perform their actions in location order. Starting with the lemonade stand, continuing to the store, then the playground, and finally the alley. If there are multiple kids at a location, you choose the order in which each kid will perform their actions. At the lemonade stand, each kid will gain their bucks, taking it from the buck pile and putting them in the buck bank. If Mindy is here, she can spend 3 ego to gain another buck, and can repeat this effect as long as she has the ego for it. So after spending 3 ego for 1 buck, I could spend 3 ego again to gain 1 buck again, and so on and so forth. Keep in mind that the stray cat distraction event will prevent Mindy from gaining any bucks this way, but she will still be able to spend ego. At the store, kids will spend any held bucks to buy as many cards as they can. You cannot prevent a kid from buying cards during this phase. If Mindy is at the store, you can spend 2 ego to peek at the top 2 cards of the deck. Then you can return them to the top of the deck, or place them on the bottom of the deck, or even place one on top and the other on bottom. After returning the cards, you may repeat this action and can continue to repeat this action as long as you have the ego for it. As an example, I have Mindy at the store with 3 bucks. I can spend 2 ego to look at the top 2 cards of the deck. I don't want either of these, so I'll put them on the bottom. I'll spend another 2 ego to look at 2 more cards. I like this one, but not really this one, so I'll put this one on top and the other one on bottom. And from here, I can decide to buy a card. Well, what do you know? Just the card I was looking for. Any card you gain during the day of phase will go into your pocket, but after you finish any store actions, you must put the cards you bought into your binder. New cards are very exciting, so if your binder is full of cards, you must replace older cards with newer ones. For example, I will put this card in the open slot, and I must put this in my binder. So I will get rid of this card and replace it with this. Any replaced cards will go into the playground, and once your pocket is empty, you can move on and continue the round at the playground. At the playground, kids will trade any held resources for a single card, and they must trade for a card if they can, putting it in your pocket. For example, if I planned for Link to gain this 7, but the Teenager Takeover event happened, and it changed all the cards to weak cards, I will still need to lose these held resources and gain a single card. The playground is not limited to the 6 slots in this phase. If the playground was full and I added cards to the playground from my binder due to buying new store cards, any extra cards will just sit on the side, and I could have any kids that I have at the playground trade for those lost cards. As I said before, if Mindy is at the playground, she may spend 2 ego to boost the strength of her card totals by 1, repeating this effect as long as she has the ego for it. So if I wanted to get this 7, I could spend 14 ego without holding anything to get it, as long as I have enough. Right now, I only have 6, so I couldn't do that. At the alley, Mindy will be able to duel Dark Shippy Doos. She must have brought a single card to battle with. Before you begin, you may bet ego to boost the strength of your card. For every 2 ego you bet, your card will gain 1 strength. Keep in mind that unless specified by a specific event, nothing will happen with the ego you bet. It's helpful to know what card could pop up in Dark Shippy Doo's deck, and while you could look at the full card list in the rulebook, you could also simply look at the card back here. It might look like ancient runes from far away, but if you tilt your head to the side, you can see that it's a reference of each of the potential cards in the deck. Once you've bet your ego and you're ready to duel, you shout the name of your monster in an attempt to summon it. For example, I could say, "Let's go, Slendalian!" This may feel stupid, because there's no way summoning Scrappets is real and that's just some urban legend or whatever, but Dark Shippy Doos insists that you try it anyway. After that, flip over Dark Shippy Doo's top card. Perform any immediate effects on this revealed card, then compare its strength with the total strength of your card. If your total card strength matches or is greater than Dark Shippy Doo's card, you win or tie, and you will gain their card, putting it in your pocket. If your card strength is less, then you lose the duel, and their card will return to the bottom of their deck. After the duel, the card that you brought, whether you win or lose, will go into your pocket. Keep in mind that certain parts of this process may change depending on the effects of certain cards. After this, the day of phase is complete, and we can move on to the afternoon meeting. At the start of this final cleanup phase, you'll return each kid token back to the home location. You will then empty your pocket, adding any cards into your binder as you wish. You may choose to replace certain cards, or you may decide not to put a gain card into your binder. Any card that is not in your binder after this will be sent to the playground area. Next, we will shuffle the playground card market, the reference to which is listed here. First, place any cards that are not in a slot into one of these slots, stacking if necessary. Then, click the Gather button, and it should gather all the cards into this last slot. Next, add a card from the store and pull the stack out down here, and shuffle it. Fill each open playground slot with cards face up, and once you run out of slots, or there's one card left in this stack, you will put these cards at the bottom of the store deck. After this, you will look at the cards in your binder and gain ego equal to the highest card you own. So, in this case, this 8 is my highest card, so I will gain 8 ego. Keep in mind that the maximum ego you may have at one time is 50, and the minimum is 0. You might have noticed here next to the ego tracker that there are certain points that would force you to unfriend a kid. Those points being at 25 ego, 35 ego, and 40 ego. The first time your ego reaches or passes one of these points, you will unfriend a kid. Keep in mind that's the first time you pass it. So if my ego were to drop below 25 again, and then I build up my ego and pass it, I would not unfriend a kid unless I went past 35. It's possible that you will have to unfriend multiple kids at once, and it's also possible to unfriend a kid in the day of phase due to certain events or the effects of a duel. When you need to unfriend someone, you will need the Unfriend Randomizer here to determine who will leave you. Click the spinner multiple times, then let it go. The kid it lands on will be the kid who has to go. If it landed on a kid you have already unfriended previously, spin the spinner again until it lands on one that you can unfriend. Now that a kid has been selected for unfriending, take their token and place it in the designated area in the setup. Then rip that same kid's photo out of your binder and put it in the same area. Underneath that photo, you will find a sad or angry version of that kid. Place this token back in the home location to remind you of the friends you've lost. For the rest of the game, you may not plan for this kid to gain any resources for you, and they will remain home. You cannot gain an unfriended kid either. If my ego were to drop below 25, Penny would not suddenly be my friend again. That's not how relationships work. Now, it may be obvious due to the spinner, but you may only unfriend Penny, Link, and Spiff through gaining ego. However, the final event of the game will always have a chance to unfriend your best friend Jessa. If at the start of the final day of phase, you no longer own your starter card, like if it's not in your binder or held by Mindy, Jessa will immediately unfriend you and go home, and will not get you any resources that round. Now, unfriending might seem bad, as you lose friends who can help you gain resources, but since you've ripped their photos out of your binder, it allows you to put even more cards in there, so keep that in mind. So that is how a round works. And the night before, you will plan what your friends should do, giving them any necessary resources. On the day of, they will hopefully execute their part of the plan, depending on the event of the day. And finally, during the afternoon meeting, you clean up your binder, clean up the playground, and boast to your friends about that cool card you got. After the 7th and final round, or the round in which the final event was revealed, you will add up your final score using this handy reference down below. Add up your ego, the number of bucks in your buck bank, and the total strength of cards in your binder. And, if you have any remaining friends, add 10 points for each one. Then compare your score with the rankings in the rulebook and read the ending you got. And that's how you play Scrappet Kaiser Princess. For clarifications on any card interactions you may have, check the full card list section of the rulebook. If you have any other questions or comments about the game that isn't answered there, go ahead and ask in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy playing Scrappet Kaiser Princess.